Alright, what up guys? It's me, and welcome to another episode of Squid Game in Unity. For those who are unfamiliar with this series, this is the series where I take the games from the hit TV show Squid Game, and I program them in Unity. So like I mentioned about, 10 seconds ago, Squid Game is a series made by Netflix in 2021 where contestants compete in a series of games for a big money grand prize. The game we're going to be building today is called Tug of War. A lot of people have heard of this, but just to reiterate the rules of the game, two of the teams go head-to-head in a challenge atop two towering platforms. Each team pulls a rope towards their respective platform until their opponent falls off. And there is a guillotine overhead which slices down to sever the rope once a team drops off the platform, thereby plunging the losing players to their death. The rules of this game are pretty simple. Just a warning that this is just for fun, this is not being published. Since this game was not like my idea or anything, I'm not going to publish it. This is just for fun and to sort of think about the logic of what goes into these games. And for those who don't know, the way this episode is going to work is I'm going to introduce the game to you guys, which I just did. Then I'm going to go through, make a rough draft, so no fancy graphics or anything, just pure functionality. Then I'm going to go through and walk you guys through sort of what I did and how it works, because this is supposed to be a fun learning thing. And then I'm going to go through and put actual models in there with like actual textures. And then I'll demonstrate the final version to you guys and walk through the changes, and that's basically it. So without further ado, we're going to head over to Unity, where we're going to get ready to build some Tug of War. So I will see you guys once I have like a rough draft of the game. Alright, welcome back, guys. As you can see from that time-lapse, I now have a working rough draft. And this is even more of a rough draft than the Dalgona rough draft was. I think I went a little too overkill with that rough draft, which is why there wasn't much to be changed in the final draft. So I'm trying to tone that down a little bit this time, so that hopefully there's at least some changes in the final draft, whereas the last time there really wasn't. So if we head over to Unity, as we can see here, we have a scene set up. It looks relatively simple. Ignore my AirPods connecting there. So player 1 is tapping on this side, and they get the red ring all the way to here, and as you can see in the console, we have blue wins. And then if you reverse that, it's going to take a little bit of time because it's meant to be a two-player game. You reverse that, blue gets all the way to there, and in the console you have red wins. It is slightly different from the game on the show, because in the game on the show, you're essentially trying to pull the other team off the edge. And the reason it's different like this is it's due to size constrictions. Essentially, I would have to zoom the camera out so much here in the vertical mobile view for this to work. And for this to be a mobile game, a lot of small mobile games like this are in the vertical view, especially when they're two players. It's slightly easier. And this is meant to be a two-player game, whereas if I was gonna rotate it, I could fit a lot more in and I could have the players, but I'd have to make players rotate for that game, so I'm doing everything with the constriction of having it be vertical. Other than that, other than not showing two platforms and building the same kind of set that they had on the show, this is the exact same game. I went back and watched the clip from Squid Game. It's the exact same thing. The only thing it's missing is the two platforms and the people being pulled off. I did not say I was going to recreate Squid Game in Unity, I just said I was going to make the games from Squid Game in Unity, and that unfortunately means when you're developing for mobile that there's some added restraints that unfortunately mess with my ability to create the game as it's played in the show. But this is essentially the same thing. If you go back and watch the clip from the show, they even have the board in the middle that I have where there's the guillotine where the rope gets sliced. I don't plan on animating it for the rope to get sliced. Again, like I said in the Dalgona episode, there's a big difference between creating this as a proof of concept, just fun thing to make it playable, and then actually creating a game that would go on the Google Play Store, for example. This is not being published, so I don't necessarily have the same motivation to put in the 3 hours that it would take for me to animate the rope. So I'd have to have so many links and chains, I'd have to make it act a different way with the physics. I don't know how to do that currently, so I'd have to learn it. But right now, for this series, with what I'm getting out of what I'm putting in, I unfortunately do not have the time nor the motivation to go through and do that, because I don't need it to look ultra professional. I just need it to look nice. But without further ado, I want to get into the two scripts here that make this run. So, like I said before, this is a pretty simple one. Tug of War is incredibly simple. And again, it's meant to be a two-player game. One person who's the blue player tapping on the blue side of the screen, and the other person who's the red player tapping on the red side of the screen. So I have the game object called rope, and then in the update function, all I'm really doing is I'm saying if I get a mouse click, so get mouse button down, I'm getting the mouse position, and I have the screen width. Then I have logic down here that says, let me get it above the webcam there, that says if the mouse position is less than screen width divided by 2. So if I'm on the left side of the screen, then I have a new vector 3 called target, which is the rope position -1, or minus 0.1, just the rope position in the Y and the rope position in the Z, and then I'm setting the position of the rope to be the new position, just with vector3.lerp, so that it looks a little nicer. And part of the final draft will be fine-tuning that. And then I have the else logic here that says essentially if it's on the right side of the screen, you're adding 0.1 to the X position instead of subtracting, and it's doing the same thing. And then we have the middle object here, which quite literally is a one-function collider script that basically says if the other collider's game object name is red rope, then blue wins, and if the other collider's game object name is blue rope, then red wins. And that is all that is powering this game. I will probably be adding one more script in the final draft for a UI manager to just have like a blue wins and a red wins. I'm probably adding in some backgrounds, maybe getting like a rope texture or just like a 3D rope model. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool looking final draft. And like I said, this one is really, really simple. It did not take me much time to create. That took all of 40 minutes, and half of that was on my phone trying to figure out some personal things I got going on. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and create that final draft, and you guys will see me once we have a much better looking tug of war. I now have a working tug of war. Again, completely different day, I'm well aware. But I made a couple changes, nothing too major. That didn't do what I wanted it to do. I wanted to shut the door without getting up, but unfortunately, that did not work. But yeah, let's head over to Unity. Why is my blur not working? Sorry guys, that was really weird. I must have hit the button on my Stream Deck and not realized it. But yeah, here is the working version of Tug of War that I have. So you'll notice there's a timer now, and you tap, you tap, you tap. Again, the idea is it's two players going back to each other, and if the red hits, then this little pop-up comes up with blue wins, and you have the time above. The screen goes completely blue. You hit play again, it resets, and if you go the other way, then you have the time and red wins. And then the play again button, and you play again, and it resets. As far as what I ended up doing in the code, I added a couple more things. So in the middle object script, I now have some UI. So I have the win text, the win screen, and the win panel. And then I have start time is running, which is a toggle for the stopwatch, the time text, and then the elapsed time. So in the start, I changed it so that I'm starting by setting the start time to the current time and is running to true. In update, we say if it is running, then the elapsed time is the current time minus the start time, and that's the difference we get for the stopwatch. And then, instead of where I had it set to just print it out to the console, I now have red rope and blue rope set to, set the text to blue wins and the colors to blue and activate the screen and set is running to false and all of that stuff. It's the same thing for each one, so I'm not going to really run through it. And then for the play again button, I'm just setting the UI to be inactive, I'm setting the background color back to black, I'm telling it it is running, and then I'm resetting the time. And then the only other script I changed here was the toe click manager. And all I changed in this, and I know I said toe click manager, but that's TOW, as in like towing a car, and as in tug of war abbreviation. The only difference I added here was I have the play again button where I just set the position of the rope back to 0. And yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, it was a really simple game to make and really fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, subscribe, follow, do all those things, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.